Well, it's another eventful day in the wrestling world. Cesaro has left WWE. That news has come out in the last couple of hours. I believe PW Insider was the first one to give this news away. This has been spreading like wildfire over Twitter and, of course, multiple different, platforms already. So yeah, I mean, for me personally, looking at this, Cesaro, I already got the first comment in based on Cesaro here from Stilk saying to reunite with Chris Hero and we get a return of Kings of Wrestling. Certainly could be a possibility here. I mean, obviously looking through and finding what I can find in quick bit of news of Cesaro leaving WWE. Apparently, a deal was being renegotiated and it's not been agreed. Now, of course, can that come down to money? Can it come down to, I don't know, perhaps creative? I'm not quite sure what the ins and outs is. Not long just watched a bit of Tom Colohue as well, just got a bit his thoughts on it. He says perhaps a lot of the up, down stuff, up, down, Xavier Woods' YouTube channel, of course, maybe some of the stuff of the unhappiness as well. You look at seeing Tyler Breeze has been released. Adam Cole has left the company as well. So now Cesaro is the latest from that crew also to leave. Cesaro, when you look at him, of course, last year he was expected to leave the company and he re-signed. Most people that re-sign with the company, usually it's for a multi-year deal. We've just said about it the other day with AJ Styles, of course, and we've learned with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn also re-signing for multiple years. Cesaro didn't realize it was only 12 months. That was it. It come to his last performance, I believe, was early this month, losing to Happy Corbin. I forget if it's the 8th or the 11th of February, the exact date that he was performing the last time on a losing effort. But yeah, that's currently it with Cesaro, which is, for me, I'm not shocked because of the fact, obviously, he's not being used in WWE. He wasn't even in the Royal Rumble match. But at the same time, I'm a little bit surprised. He's been with the company since 2011. I mean, he was, Antonio Cesaro when he first started, very early on becoming United States champion, defeating Santino Marella. He's gone on with multiple tag teams, of course, most famously with The Bar over the years, with Sheamus. I really enjoyed that tandem, was really hoping they'd reunite at some stage, but clearly not going to be the path that's going to be going forward for Cesaro. And of course, like I say, last year when he did re-sign with the company, he got that big one-on-one match at WrestleMania against Seth Rollins, got put over in style as well when he won that match. And of course, he then went on to take on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania Backlash. And of course, that was a losing effort. And it kind of felt, well, that was it from there. It felt like Daniel Bryan was potentially going to push and support Cesaro, but instead he got a match himself. And Cesaro's push kind of dwindled away very, very slowly. And he's been in mid-card fodder and arguably not really doing a lot much since. So in a way, I'm not surprised, but in another way, I am very surprised. But I mean, the thing is what is next for Cesaro? Will Tony Khan be able to resist? That's probably the big question, of course. Rumors are suggesting that a lot of this video originally was suggested around the idea that Tony Khan is going to bring in more people to AEW. Of course, going to be talking about the likes of Jeff Hardy during this video. Going to be talking about Shane Strickland. Of course, that's Isaiah Swerve Scott, for those unaware. And as well as that, also Buddy Matthews, who debuted last night, aka Buddy Murphy from WWE. Lots of former WWE guys actually coming involved in there. So, yeah, I mean, will Cesaro end up there? We'll have to wait and see. Impact Wrestling, New Japan, all could be great options. I think Cesaro would be an asset wherever he decides to go next. Yes, he may not be the strongest promo in the world, but I will tell you what, in-ring style, he is absolutely phenomenal. And if you put him amongst the right crowd as well, could be in a group, could be in, I don't know, maybe a team or whatever. It could be amazing to see what they would do with Cesaro going forward. Like Silk said a minute ago, the idea perhaps even being with Chris Hero if he was to come back again. But let's go into the comments because some comments are already flying in. We are in a Q&A format as well, so lots of questions already come in. Can't wait to discuss everything today on the show. Kate Exciting House saying, hey Steve, hey, how are you doing? Supersonic X also in house as well. Hope you're doing very well, noob. Extremely shocked Cesaro's quietly quit WWE, but there's no other WWE superstars to quit WWE this year since there's no budget cuts. Well, yeah, I mean, no budget cuts yet. And like you say, very key fact here, he's not been released by WWE. He has just quietly left. His contract is up. He actually doesn't have a 90-day non-compete clause. He could be in the Face of the Revolution ladder match next week at AEW Revolution. How awesome would that be if he was to turn up in that ladder match as a mystery entrant? We got one of those last year. It was Ethan Page. Maybe another idea that comes off the top of my head very, very quickly. I think about Bryan Danielson, John Moxley. They're going to have this group together. Of course, they're going to look to try and get the young guns, but why not someone like Cesaro in that group as well? He'd be a perfect mold, a perfect fit to be in and amongst that. So for me, I would love to see that. If he wants to go to any other companies as well, where he can perhaps take on the likes of Jonathan Gresham for the Ring of Honor World title, maybe Josh Alexander. Those matches to me seem like dream matches. I'd really, really love to see those. So there's lots of different ideas, lots of different philosophies. Like I say, New Japan could always be an option as well. What matches do you want to see Cesaro have now is outside of WWE? We can discuss some of them on the stream here today. Yeah, very much looking forward to diving into this. So let's go into what everyone's got to say. Let's go in then as well to what all the comments and questions are as well. Silk saying it, Cesaro using big brain strategies and only renewing for a year to see if they changed in a year. And yeah, I think so. I think you're completely right with that. And it was clear that WWE didn't. They gave him something for what, 3 months, maybe 4 at an absolute maximum. And then it went back straight to how it was. And you think as well with the contract coming up, that WWE would push to try and make it where he would re-sign again. But he's not been anywhere to be seen. It's either that these negotiations have gone on for a while and they've just kind of gone, he's not re-signing, so yeah, we're not going to push him. Maybe that would be the scenario. But yeah, it's hard to know really what's really gone wrong here. But for me, it seems to be a lot to do with creative. I would have liked to have seen him to have done more. And it just hasn't happened, unfortunately. And of course, so much for the fantasy booking, which we did the other day on the last previous stream of Volta versus Cesaro at the UK pay-per-view. Would have loved to have seen it, but it didn't happen. We've got Hassan Terrell here saying Cesaro leaves WWE. He certainly has, and it's been a big talking point already in the starting point of this video. We'd love to know some of the dream matches and where you'd like to see him go next. Zach also here says, I wish WWE would have pushed him better, as would I. I would have loved to have seen the Bar get back together. I just think that they were awesome as a duo. I know there's the Rich Holland stuff going on, but for me, that's not quite working out. And even though both are great top single stars, I still think the Bar had a bit of mileage. I think that could have been a perfect team to go against the Usos at WrestleMania. Just isn't to be, unfortunately. It's not going to happen. But hey, he was in and around that main championship picture last year. Should he have been a contender for Money in the Bank? I know Big E won it. I don't know if I can't even remember if Cesaro was in the match. It seems that much of an afterthought that long ago as well. But yeah, it's really, really sad to see. It's a shame he wasn't used better. But hey, we'll have to wait and see how it's going to play out. But Zach was going to say, I don't like AEW, but it'd probably be a better fit for him. I definitely think it'd be a good fit for him. I think he would fit in very well there. I don't know if he'd be a world champion over there, don't get me wrong, but definitely TNT title I could see. And I could see him just having lots of dream matches. There's a great roster over there. You know, even speaking about the young guns like Danny Garcia, Lee Moriarty, people like that. Get him in there with CM Punk as well. You know, we've got all the different people to mix it up with as well. Hangman Adam Page, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, you know, it's all there. It would be fantastic to see MJF as well. So we'll be talking about MJF as well very, very shortly in this stream. Also, you know, it's a shame that that it's not gone down that way for him. But hey, we'll have to wait and see. We'll go to some other comments and go towards the top as well, because we've got quite a few that came in before the stream started as well. Isaiah or Shane, we'll go with Shane for this point. Should not have signed with AEW, in KXI's opinion. Should have gone to Impact. Impact would have been a great shout. I think would have been a top player over there, but I do think AEW would be a good place for him as well. I do think, again, TNT sort of area, I think we're looking for that sort of mid-card kind of area to start off with, but I think he's going to do really, really well over there. I'm a big fan of him since Lucha Underground days, watching him as Killshot back then. And of course, you know, he went on to MLW, now he's gone on to NXT, and yeah, I enjoyed his run in WWE. I was another one really disappointed to see let go. Of course, this was different. It was a release at the time with Hit Row. Yeah, it just is a shame. But hey, I think AEW is a great place for him. And like I said, I think that the future is bright. This was originally broken, by the way, by Fightful Select. Sean Ross Sapp actually broke this news yesterday. And just to give us the clear indication that it's definitely on, he did actually share the tweet, Shane himself, with a wink emoji face. So you definitely know that it's definitely on. Zach goes on to say here very quickly that he wanted to see Cesaro versus Gabriel Stevenson. That would have been a great match. And I agree with you, would have been a great match. Would have loved to have seen it. Silk goes on to say, with Buddy Matthews joining House of Black, AEW seems to be building a lot of trio factions. Do you think we may finally get trios titles like New Japan has? Certainly, I think it's definitely in the works, and Ring of Honor have them as well, just to say, by the way. I think it's definitely something on the cards. I think it's something that definitely will happen in the future, but I don't know how soon it's going to happen. I thought we were going to get it last year. I predicted in my start of the year predictions, my bold predictions for 22, that this would be the year it would happen. At the time, I said that I thought that the first 2 trios that would be going for it would be Adam Cole and Red Dragon against Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. We'll see if that does come to fruition. But like I say, lots and lots of trios, and definitely it's a possibility. And like we say, Buddy Matthews debuting last night on AEW Dynamite, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I thought it was really cool the way it was brought in. Of course, the lights going out and just seeing the idea first. That it felt like that Malachi Black had seen a ghost at the start. We know that their past that they had, and of course the fans really eating up as well. And then just to see him join, of course, with the House of Black and obviously destroying Penta and Pac, it feels that we are leading to a trios match when Phoenix does return, which I think will be, in the best British way I can do it, bloody exciting. I really cannot wait for that trios match. I think it's going to be pretty darn awesome. Quickly going back to some more Cesaro stuff. We've got Zach saying here he's 41, give him 4 or 5 years tops. He's in great condition though. I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of wrestlers have gone into well into the 50s as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still got another 7, 8, 9 years left in him. But let's see what is going to be in the immediate future for Cesaro. I think that certainly a bright future is definitely in the immediate future. Wherever he decides to go, I think that he's now got the pick of what he wants to do, see what the offers are on the table. Like we say, he's not got to wait 90 days to do so. He could be in Revolution next week. He could be on, I probably won't be at Sacrifice, Impact. I don't know if those things are going to be, pre-recorded or if they're live when they do those ones, but certainly could be an Impact Wrestling, could be one of the next set of tapings. So there's certainly lots of ideas where it could go for him next. And like I say, for me, I as much as I want to see him in Impact because I like Impact as a brand, I feel like AEW is the place. And I just feel Tony Khan's not going to be able to resist opening up that checkbook again, is he? Because I mean, we're talking about hell of an athlete, that someone that's been underused, and I just feel that if they've been underused, Tony Khan likes to think that they can book them better. So I think that he certainly will feel that there's definitely a place for Cesaro in amongst the roster. Silk says, well, Sting is in his 60s. Cesaro could easily go into his 70s. We won't go that far at this point. I mean, I'm not sure I want to see Zimmer frames going around the ring, but certainly would be interesting to see how far and how long he would go on for. But certainly do get your point as well. I think that certainly he's got a lot left in the tank. He's nowhere near done at this point. The good thing with AEW is that Cesaro doesn't have to sign with them, but can still make appearances. They personally think he should go to Impact. There you go. Should go to Impact is in Silk's opinion. I'd like to know everyone else's opinion. Let us know in the comments below. We've got quite a lot of people watching already. Make sure you hit the like button as well on the video nice and early. Drop your questions in as well. Leave some comments as well. It just helps the algorithms of the video. I know it's very boring to say this very early on, but it really does help, and it spreads the word of SCW. And really want to hit the monetization. So that would be a real goal for me. And of course, without everyone's help, it's not a possibility. So if anyone can like the video at this point, we'd really, really appreciate it. But let's go into some more of the questions, because I've missed a couple already that came in nice and early on. So let's go up and see what we've got here. We've got Washington Eli in the house here. He's given us a question now. He says, what do you want to see Jeff Hardy do in AEW? I'm happy for him, but I'm scared for him. Also, I don't want to see him turn crazy like he did in TNA in AEW. Well, it's a great question. It's a great point. Of course, I terribly forget the person who Jeff Hardy had the interview with, but of course he spoiled the fact that he's going to be joining AEW. He said in an interview, I'm going there, cannot wait, really excited for it. So we know Jeff Hardy is coming, but it would be fair, I don't think it was really a big surprise really that it was going to happen. I remember saying as soon as he left WWE, I said, I'm sure he's going to join his brother, Matt Hardy, of course, in All Elite Wrestling. I think that's the direction as well. And say, what do I want to see him do? I want to see him reunite the Hardy Boys. I think that what you could do is you can have the HFO, just align themselves with Andrade. Matt Hardy's already walked out on Private Party a couple of times in tag team matches. Clear references to Jeff Hardy walking out on his last match in WWE on that house show. So what you could do with that is it gets to a point where they've had enough. They turn on Matt Hardy, and then when the timing is right, Jeff Hardy can come in. You can have the tag team feud with Private Party. You can have single matches with Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy against Andrade El Idolo. And then eventually we can get onto the almost like the farewell tour for the Hardys. One last hurrah with them going against the best tag teams in the best tag team division in pro wrestling. That's what I personally would like to see. Matches once again with the Young Bucks. We saw it in Ring of Honor, but I'd want to see it in All Elite Wrestling. I think it'd be really, really special to see. Really would like it as well. So certainly for me, this is a biggie. And I think that Jeff Hardy's going to be treated like a big deal in AEW. I would like to think that the stuff of TNA and of the past, I'd like to think that's behind him. I have not seen any evidence of why they fired him. Apparently, it's Jeff has been saying he's fine. Matt's been saying he's fine. So from what I've seen and from what I've heard, I have no reason to doubt what Jeff is saying at this point. So I have faith here. Let's go with some of Jonesy's questions, because Jonesy threw in a load of questions nice and early. He's not even got a look in yet. We're nearly 15 minutes into the stream. Is AEW adding too many WWE cast-offs? Well, could it be about to add another with Cesaro? That's a big question we're going to ask ourselves during the next few days, I'm pretty sure. But certainly, in my opinion, I don't think so. And here's my reasoning why. I think it's great that they're actually bringing in the indie talents and people from other promotions. I think that's great for that. Build your homegrown talent as well. But when you look from WWE, these people have been on, the biggest television product in wrestling that there is. If you think that they have a role within your company and you can use them, you can push them correctly, why shouldn't they be there? Why? And I'm not going to pick on people because I think it's a bit unfair, but you look at the people that are on Dark and Dark Elevation, some of those are they're not going to make it. They're not going to get to Rampage. They're not going to get to Dynamite. If these people are coming from WWE and they're seen as a deal and can be pushed correctly, why not bring them in? Why not? They don't have to be pushed like they were in the old TNA days, win the world title on night one. That's a big mistake. But to bring them in and gradually build them up, I don't see anything wrong with that. You look at Keith Lee, for example. He's going into the Face of Revolution ladder match. He's going in for the TNT title. That's a place that you can, put him in. He's in the mid-card area. Andrade Alidolo wants the TNT title. Malachi Black's in a tag team. All right, you may argue and say, well, hang on, well, these guys could be or should be pushed better than in AEW. But I think that you need to work your way up. And I think that they're doing things the right way, in my personal opinion. For me, if you've got the strongest roster possible, why not? And I do think that AEW are only probably a few faces away. And I think 2 or 3 of them should be for their women's division to actually say, right, okay, we have got arguably the best division entirely in wrestling. That's how strong I'm going to go with it. Silk has got a great question. He put this one nice and early in for us in case he couldn't watch later at the time, but I'm very thankful he is with us here now. Did MJF possibly have the best babyface turn in pro wrestling? Obviously, making reference to last night, MJF, for me, a game-changing promo. This, for me, has to be one of the promos that you're going to look back on 10, 15, 20 years from now and say, that was the moment that this happened. And it's a key moment in a feud that, let's be fair, has had so many talking points for MJF and CM Punk the whole way through. And it's had lots of twists and turns. We've had the point where CM Punk played the heel in Long Island. So it's no stranger to the point of MJF kind of being the babyface in his hometown. So they've teased these ideas before. But here is something really interesting last night where we saw last week the picture of MJF as a kid and CM Punk saying it was just another Friday to him. To then see MJF pour his heart out, say, look, this was, what I was like as a kid. I was suffering. I was, being bullied. And, you look and say to himself, CM Punk was my hero. He let me down. And you think to yourself, right, okay, where is this going to go from here? And, CM Punk actually comes out and says, look, was this genuine? Was this true? Was this actually legit? And you could see like the reaction from MJF on there, just not giving an answer, but just the way it was done, how still off it just was perfection. It was, like you say, it was like he'd turned babyface, but I don't think he has. If you wanted to do the double turn at this point, though, the door is open for AEW to do that if they wanted to. I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to go down that avenue. But for me personally, I think it was an absolute game changer. And I really, really do believe that I look back at some of the most famous stuff that when I look through ECW, WWE, WCW, I think when we go back to looking at AEW, this is going to be one of the biggest talking points for many, many years to come. Jonesy says here, would you commit to 1 more year of Hangman Page as champion or have him job it to Adam Cole Revolution? So if I can't do either, and I've got to do one or the other, I think at this point, as much as I think Hangman Adam Page should be a transitional champion, I would keep the belt on Hangman. I just think right now, Adam Cole has got a storyline going on that doesn't need the World Championship. It can help elevate the storyline that's going on with Red Dragon, the Young Bucks when Kenny Omega eventually returns. Possibly even Hangman still remaining involved in it. We'll have to wait and see if the full Elite will reunite. And who knows, maybe Roddy Strong can come in at some point. We can get a Stadium Stampede match. Maybe we can get as well the women involved, Britt Baker with Adam Cole's group, and we can get Jamie Hayter on the other side with the Elite. Who knows? But for me right now, Adam Cole doesn't need the world title. There's enough going on for him in All Elite Wrestling. So I would keep Hangman Adam Page. But certainly for me, if you're going to ask my personal opinion, I would hope at some point that MJF will be the one to take the belt off Hangman Adam Page. That's certainly what I would do. Zach is here, says, I hope Cody does appear in WWE. I think that we will see him, and that makes me happy. I think he won't appear until the current season of Go Big Show ends. And I think that's a great point. If they've got that season still on, I don't think we'll see him just yet. I would like to see him. I'd like to see him personally turn up like maybe 2 weeks before WrestleMania. They've got stuff to wrap up with Seth Rollins, if that's going to be the direction they're going to go. They've got another 2 weeks to go with that. And obviously, I think the same with Kevin Owens. If they want to do the Steve Austin stuff as well, if that's going to happen, get through the tag team spell where they don't win the tag titles. And then the week after that, again, I don't know how long the big show until it ends, but that's the perfect time to start doing things from there. So yeah, no, great suggestion there. I do think that he will go WWE as well at this point. Did suggest the idea, what if it's a work? But too many people seem to be under the impression that this is full on going to happen. Although I will say, if it ended up being a work in the end, my goodness, haven't we all been trolled? That would be quite hilarious. So yeah. Let's go and see. We've got some other questions as well. When there's Supersonic X here saying, what are your thoughts on Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey being the main event for night 1 of WrestleMania 38? I see some people who are not happy. How will WWE spark some interest in this match? Well, my personal opinion on this, and I'm going to say some of what I want to say here with this, because I have a fantasy booking video coming out for Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch and their WrestleMania match, because I've got an idea of how I think the story should finish. So, and I'm going to just say that it may not even finish at WrestleMania. I've got ideas of how I think that should conclude. But looking at this and taking it for what it is, obviously there is a rivalry of what should be the main event of night 1, and it's obviously of these 2 matches. So there's a slight giveaway already. But for me personally, what I will say is, judging on what we know, I think this should be the main event of night 1, because yes, the other 2 ladies have won the main events of WrestleMania, but Ronda Rousey won the Royal Rumble. And I want the Royal Rumble to continue to mean something. So if that's going to be the placeholder of what gets you to night 1 of WrestleMania, that should be the reasoning for it. So it's not even to do with the competitors. It's not even to do with the match. It's to do with tradition and to do with how stipulations should work, personally, in my personal opinion, within wrestling. So it comes down to a Royal Rumble thing. I personally think it's the right decision. How to spark interest in the match to make people care. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe I should be trying to do a fantasy booking on this one. But I mean, personally, I think the idea of Ronda Rousey being a babyface is probably what's rubbing a few people up the wrong way. I think they need to get real with it. I think they need to get some throwing some shots. Maybe the idea of something that is like more shoot rather than work. I think that would probably be the way to go, but maybe a worked shoot, because we know shoot doesn't really go down so well, especially what we saw with Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch at around Survivor Series time. So worked shoot is certainly the method I would go for it going forward. But yeah. Let's go to the Cesaro's feud with Roman. How would you have booked it? Well, that's a great question. I mean, personally, for me, looking at it at the time, I think that it's hard to remember every step of what happened with that feud, but maybe Cesaro, I think, was kind of given the almost like the cheerleader role from Bryan Danielson to get in that role, or Daniel Bryan then. But maybe Cesaro should have continued being on a winning streak. Maybe, he won at WrestleMania, of course, against Seth Rollins. Maybe he should have beat Bryan Danielson again. I know he'd beat him a couple of times on the road to WrestleMania, and maybe just gone through something, maybe like a gauntlet match or something to get in the position. And then, like you say, with that match with the feud with Roman, the problem is, how would you have booked it? Roman shouldn't have lost the belt. And obviously, at this pay-per-view, I don't think a main event you should have a screwy finish. I think the match itself was actually really done really, really well. It's kind of what happened afterwards, which was the problem, was the fact that he went back to obscurity. He didn't really go and do anything. I think you should have made a really big push for Money in the Bank. Now, I know Big E won it, but certainly Cesaro should have been the other name, perhaps even in a position where maybe both of them had grabbed the contract at the same time, and then maybe Cesaro was knocked off afterwards, or a match at SummerSlam to determine who kept the briefcase or something like that they could have gone with. But there's lots of different ideas. Mainly the problem with Cesaro wasn't the Roman feud, it's what they've done after. And certainly in most recent times, he's basically been putting over Ridge Holland. He's been in tag teams with Mansoor. I mean, it's a long way down the pecking order from when it was where he was actually, well, I don't know, being in this sort of title picture. So, I mean, when he was in this area, Cesaro was good. Cesaro was fine. There was no problem. So, yeah, I think that's kind of how I would answer that. Does anyone know where Miro has been? I believe he's been injured, but I don't know 100% on that one, KXI. So I'm going to be honest with you, not 100% honest on that one. But if he has been taking some time off to rest up, to heal up from any sort of injury, hopefully he'll be back soon. The Redeemer, obviously, he's been doing amazing stuff when he has been in AEW. So I can't wait to see him back and see what he does next. And personally, I think he would actually be a great challenger for Hangman Adam Page in the future. Martin Career here says, hey, what's up? And what's up to you? Thank you for checking out the stream. So with Jeff Hardy going to AEW, do you think that he'll have a better run than his last run in WWE? Yes, and my reasoning for it is that I think they're going to treat him like the icon. He's going to be almost, maybe we'll get Jeff Hardy versus Sting one more time. Not Victory Road, please. But no, seriously, though, I do think that we're going to get a lot of dream matches. But I mentioned Sting and maybe Sting and Darby Allin versus the Hardy Boys could be one there. But as I said before, I think it'll be a tag team situation. Maybe we'll get a couple of those big matches, though. Maybe we'll get a Jeff Hardy versus a Kenny Omega at some point, because then, it's an amazing match that it's a dream match many people would want to see. So, I think he's going to have a good time. He did have a good finish to his WWE run. Of course, he was, he was in the final two at Survivor Series, of course, on the last one of the Team SmackDown. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't doing a lot else before that. So yeah, for me personally, I think he'll have a better run. Certainly, judging on the last year of his WWE run, I would say that yeah, I think he'll do better. Zach saying, I'm going to be honest, I don't believe that AEW will last more than 10 years. I see superstars like MJF might leave and come to WWE. Well, I mean, that's certainly is an argument. A lot of money's being thrown into projects in AEW right now, especially the video game as well. I think that's a time will tell thing. I think they will last longer, but hey, we've all got our own opinions on that one. And it goes on to say as well, Zach, this is kind of off topic, but who remembers Lars Sullivan? Painfully, yes, I do. But yeah, we haven't seen or heard much from him since. So yeah. We've got Silk back in the House of Nails. Do you think Jay White will bring the Bucks or Cole back into the Bullet Club? I think there's a strong possibility. The fact that Adam Cole has brought him in. Jay White here. Now, this is hopefully we're going to get some clarity on Impact Wrestling tonight on what's going on there. And I feel in my head that Jay White is probably saying to make Bullet Club the strongest going forward. I think we need to go back to the origins of Bullet Club, looking at the best of the past and also grabbing the best of the future, which is why Chris Bay is still around. Now, I know GOD are OGs of the group, but obviously they've been in there for a long, long time. We know the contracts are currently run up, so don't know what's going on there with that. So the Good Brothers are a good replacement, but Adam Cole was the one that brought Jay White into AEW. So I certainly could see the idea of Adam Cole rejoining the Bullet Club, because of course him and the Bucks were there before. So it'll be interesting to see how it will go down. If it does, then certainly to bring Bullet Club in any format into AEW with that as well would be pretty exciting. So yeah, that would be pretty cool. Okay, so I think this is revolving around Miro. He's injured apparently. So yeah, there you go. It does answer that question. I wasn't wrong, thankfully. Who can really change the landscape and give WWE their reputable conversation as a wrestling company today, aside of Cody? That's a really good question, Martin. You've come recently, Martin, on these live streams. For the people that have been watching these regularly, comes in with the most difficult questions. That's to the point that usually these ones, if you had them on the regular Q&A, you've got like about 20 hours to think about and go, I'll have a good answer for that. When it comes to it, with these ones, you've got to think right on the fly, and you think, Christ, what's the first good name that comes to your head? To give this a really good answer, it's really, really difficult. But to really change the landscape with WWE, aside from Cody, oh, that's a toughie. That is really a toughie. I'm going to be honest with you, Martin. I don't know off the top of my head to give you a good enough answer. It's something that I want to think about, and I will come back to you. Maybe we can come back to this either later in the stream, or we can do this on the weekends one, because goodness, that's a really tough question. If anyone's got any suggestions, by the way, to help me out, let me know in the comments. That would be really, really helpful. Zach says, do you think that they should add Seth to the Roman versus Brock match? It makes sense because they have the history, the storyline already made, the WrestleMania 31 cash-in. I personally would love to see, if Cody isn't coming in, this is the match that I would do it for. But I mean, of course, a lot of people, I'm pretty sure, would say already that with the way things have been put in place with Roman versus Brock, you need to do this match, because otherwise we can have it again at another pay-per-view or another WrestleMania. So I kind of think, although Roman and Brock has been amazing this time, this is the time to sort of finish it, conclude it, make sure that we don't add any further there. But certainly, this would make a lot of sense, and something before that I've suggested I think would be a very, very good idea if they were into it. But we've got KXI says, nah, save Seth versus Roman until Survivor Series, since that's when the Shield's 10-year anniversary will be. I think you are correct with the Shield 10-year anniversary. That's a really good idea for a booking. I love that KXI. That may be one of my favorite comments so far. Brilliant suggestion. I'm going to just leave that there because I can't add anything better to it. Brilliant. Martin says, would you like to see maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour extra show for Raw or SmackDown, respectively, so that talent can be built up to show on TV? Personally, I don't want any extra wrestling than there already is. I think there's too much wrestling on my wrestling TV set. But what I would say is that maybe they could take time, or maybe this is what you're already suggesting on the question, if I've misread this, but taking 30 minutes or 1 hour of your actual show would be probably better to do so, because look, we've got great talent in amongst that roster, and it is, to be fair, on SmackDown right now, because they've got so many people that's been released and so many people injured and people like that, we actually are starting to see certain people get a push. We're seeing like Ricochet getting a string of wins together all of a sudden. I mean, whether we like him or not, Madcap Moss is getting a bit of a push. So, I mean, they are trying to build stars for the future on certain shows. You look at Raw as well. Chad Gable is absolutely electrifying things right now, and it's been a long time coming, but it's been so good to see Chad Gable doing what he's doing. I think I'm talking about Chad a lot on recent videos here because I think he's absolutely awesome at what he does. So, personally, for me, yeah, that would be my suggestion of doing it. Take it on what the TV shows you've got already, rather than actually giving extra, because although some may say you can't get too much wrestling, for me, I actually am starting to think you can, because when you watch all the other companies as well, it's quite difficult to fit it all in and try and be as knowledgeable when it comes to these streams. Silke says Becky versus Bianca should open up night 2, so they don't have Charlotte run a match on the same night. And you're right, the Rumble winners should main event each night. And I totally agree with this. I think night 2 opener would be good. Remember with the WrestleManias last year, we had the WWE Championship open up night 1, which I believe was Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley going as the champion and retaining, of course. So this certainly would not be any disrespects to them to put this match on first. It would feel like a hell of a big deal and a big way to start off night 2. And I think with WrestleManias over the years, in recent years, we have always had really big matches kick off the night. And I don't think you can get many bigger than Becky versus Bianca. So I think that is a very, very good suggestion. We've got Zach saying, do you think WWE will eventually buy AEW in the future? Personally thinks they will. If AEW went into really serious financial troubles, then certainly I think it would be a possibility because of talent and tape library. But I would turn around and say that I don't think so in the near future. I mean, the cards are very good. I mean, they've got the AEWS going on, but they've got the Jacksonville Jaguars, and of course from my end of the woods, Fulham Football Club as well. So they're doing all right. I don't think that they're in any rush or any financial worries. Yes, I don't know if AEW's being the most profitable at this particular moment, but certainly I think that with time and years to come, if they continue doing things on TV that they're doing, they will eventually grow their audience. They're not going to lose the audience they've got because they're doing fantastic things. So if they can continue to get better TV deals, better sponsorships, stuff like that, they will continue to grow in the future. Of course, when you look at things right now, they're not in WWE's league when it comes to obviously finance in that way, but I don't see them going anywhere in the near future anyway. Martin says, what can be the top 5 things WWE needs to do this year to be on the wrestling show level than AEW? I'm guessing a better wrestling show level than AEW. For me personally, with WWE, they've got a great talent pool as well. They just need to, in my opinion, have consistent storylines is one of the big things. Try and be a bit outside of the box with those storylines as well. Try and be a bit more real with those storylines. I mean, let's look at this past week on Dynamite, for example. Chris Jericho, Eddie Kingston. Now, obviously, for Zach, who said not really an AEW fan there's a real realism with the program that they're talking about. They're on a mic for like 10 minutes here. You've got Chris Jericho, who's the sports entertainer, Eddie Kingston, who's the indie guy, who's fought to get to this position. And Chris Jericho says, look, you're someone that sabotages yourself. You can't win the big one, and you don't believe in yourself to win the big one, which is why when we have a match of Revolution, you're not going to win the big one, where, you can see it in Eddie's face then. He has that self-doubt. It's that sense of realism as well. You really feel a connection to the character when the storyline feels legitimate. And with WWE, I don't always feel like it's legitimate. I feel like sometimes they say lines just to try and get a pop or try and get a bit of edge, but it's not edgy and gritty enough. And it feels like I'm speaking like Edge here when I say grit. And Edge is probably one of the few that I do feel that grit from when he's on the microphone. But that would be one of the things. Cliffhangers would be another one. I want a reason to need to check into the next show. I don't need a happy ending at the end of every Raw or just someone dominating at the end of every Raw. I want a storyline reason of like, who done it? Why is this? Why do I need to be involved in the next week. Of course, I'm going to be there anyway. I'm a big WWE fan, nearly been for 30 years. That gives away my age a little bit. Apologies about that, more for myself than for you. But yeah, at the same time, you look and say that for me, a cliffhanger, I think is something very, very important. Maybe they need to end the brand split. I think maybe they need to get all the big names under one house. There is a risk that perhaps half of the roster would not benefit long term with that, but at the same time, I think that certainly would be another method as well. With other things, I mean, they can continue to show and do what their strengths are as well. I mean, if you look, for example, their women's division is one of the best in the world. Continue doing the things that's good, then that's fine. Just add to those things also. I think it'll be nice. And of course, the last one then for you that gives 5 is Future Stars. Push your Austin Theories, push your Liv Morgans, push your Montez Fords, push your Dominic Mysterios, get those people, give them big, meaningful programs going into WrestleMania, which is one of the reasons why I'm really actually a big fan of the Mysterios against Logan Paul and The Miz. I think it's fantastic to put that together because Dominic Mysterio has a lot to gain out of that feud because his dad's the cover star of the WWE game that's coming out, of course, just before WrestleMania. He's going to take on a former world champion or two-time Grand Slam champion in The Miz, was only WWE champion last year, of course, on this time on the road to WrestleMania. And Logan Paul, and say what you want about Logan Paul, he's a celebrity. He is someone that's going to get the casual eyes that's not wrestling eyes onto the screens to watch a match. And when people watch that match, if Dominic Mysterio is the one that picks up the victory, you're helping build a new star. So yeah, that's definitely something I think that they need to look into doing. Okay, sorry, Steve, I remember when you said you would do a Big E Triple Threat fantasy booking. Are you still going to make it? With the new date, yes, it's still in the works. I must admit, at the initial time when I did that, I had a couple of big projects that I was doing, so I didn't have the opportunity to get around to making it at that point. There are a couple more big projects still in the works at the moment, and you will see those coming in the next coming weeks when they do come on the channel. There's a lot of time going to be put into them, but this video is still in the works, and it is going to be in the works on the road to WrestleMania because the fantasy booking I've got in mind does feature WrestleMania. So do not fret, this video will come. You may just have to wait a couple of weeks more before I can get around to releasing it, but it will come. I promise you on that. Okay, so I'm saying, Steve, oh, that's the same one that's coming twice there. Sometimes you've got to check these comments before I put them on screen. Silk says, let's be honest, AEW would never book Jeff in a story where he's an alcoholic. Hopefully, with the freedom of AEW, we can see a return of Willow. For me, I'm going to be honest now, I'm going to go right on the opposite end. I was never a fan of Willow. I'm really sorry about that because it's totally, obviously, different to your opinion there, but Willow was never for me, but I do agree. I don't think we're going to get him being put through crazy storylines about being, where he's an alcoholic and, having bar brawls and stuff like that. I don't think we're going to have that stuff there. Like I say, if you can go through this tag team journey one more time with Matt Hardy, perhaps even win the tag team titles, that would be pretty awesome to see. Yeah, there's so many things you could do with Jeff in AEW, and I think that he's got definitely a bright future there. We have got C Nation Dogs. Sorry, I haven't been here, been busy with school. Trust me, school is hard. It really is, C Nation. Just want to say thank you for checking out the stream. And don't worry, you do you. When you have a chance, when you want to check out a video, never feel bad that you haven't seen one. I'm grateful that you're here, and I hope everything is going well your end. And yeah, school is very important. So keep studying, keep working hard, and you'll get those results and you'll get the grades that you want at the end to do the things that you want to do later in life, and that's really, really important. So yeah, but I do appreciate you coming. And you've got a question. Look, it looks here for us as well, or certainly something here anyway. With Josh Alexander, thing is a work. No way. Josh Alexander leaves Impact Wrestling after his big push. Let's see what happens. I've not heard anything if he's re-signed yet or not. I would love him to re-sign. Firstly, for me, I'm a big Josh Alexander guy, and I agree with you. The idea that he had such a big push, and you just feel like Moose's world title run, if it isn't going to be ending to Josh Alexander at Rebellion or somewhere like that, it's going to feel a bit of a disappointment if it's just a completely flat storyline that never went anywhere after Bound for Glory. So in a way, I do agree with you. And I'm also more hopeful because obviously he was name dropped on Dynamite a few weeks ago, although they did name drop Eddie Edwards this week as well. So who knows? Discus Lariat Collective in-house. Warren, thank you for checking out the stream. Hope you're doing well. Not sure if this has been asked yet, but who do you think will be Swerve's first big name feud in AEW? This has not been asked yet, but thank you very much for doing so, because obviously Swerve, one of the big talking points obviously on this video. I personally would like to see him come in the TNT Championship area. Now, I know a lot of people are vying for this championship at the moment, but if you were to ask me, I would like to see him perhaps thrown in the Face of Revolution ladder match. I think that would be quite awesome to see. Maybe see him come out the other side if he's a face or a heel, with one of the people in that match. Maybe you could build something up from there. I think looking at the names that are currently in there, maybe a feud against Team Taz would be quite interesting to see. Definitely someone like Ricky Starks or Powerhouse Hobbs, someone like that. But I think my shout will be Ricky Starks because he's a truly underrated talent, a brilliant performer. Loved his match with Jay Lethal the other week, and I think a match against Swerve, I think, would be one that would tear the roof down. So for me, that's going to be my shout. Supersonic X, how would you book Asuka's return? I probably have him confront the winner of the women's main event matches at WrestleMania 38 and should return post Mania 38. I think that's a good suggestion there for where you can bring it back because it's quite important and meaningful. The only thing I would say on a counter for that, say Bianca was to win, for example, and Ronda was to win, I don't want to take their moments away from them on that, especially Ronda if it's the main event. I know that everyone's necessarily on side of it, but still, I think that I always like to see it respected on that. Although I said I love cliffhangers, wouldn't that be a great way to finish off Mania? We'll have to wait and see. But hey, for me personally, I would like to see Asuka return in a babyface run. Maybe protecting somebody would be a good thing she could do. Maybe for example, let's go into an idea after WrestleMania. She goes on the Raw brand. This is where we're going to go. We've got Bianca versus Becky Lynch, and Bianca Belair wins the Raw Women's Championship. The following night, we see Becky beating down on Bianca after a match, and it looks like that Asuka comes down. She's going to make the save. She fights off. She gets Becky out of the ring. Just as Bianca comes up and she helps and gives her a championship back, she spits green mist in her face. And boom, you started building a program with Bianca versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship going into WrestleMania Backlash. Because for that, then Asuka comes in as a heel. It's fresh, it's dynamic, it's different. And then at the same time as well, she's in an important, prominent storyline. We've not taken anything away from the big moment of WrestleMania either. So that's the way I would do it. But I do like your suggestion as well because, like I say, I do want a cliffhanger. I do want an exciting way, and I do want her to come back in an important role. So yeah, lovely work there, Supersonic. C Nation Dog WWE only cares about Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Arguably, yes. I fortunately have already gone on this a number of videos already, so I'm not going to go and do it because usually when I do, it's about 10 minutes a time each time. But I'm going to just say yes, I 100% agree, and I want WWE to actually start making sure that they book the other superstars properly. I do think this week on Raw, though, they did a pretty good job with that show. I enjoyed Raw this week, and I'm really excited to see what Edge's opponent's going to be at WrestleMania. I'm assuming, if you've checked the last Q&A out already, that it'd be AJ Styles, but of course there were a number of people speculated, so let's see where it's going to lead to. But yeah, I think that at the moment, that obviously is the big match. It is the big placeholder. Let's see where it's going to go next. Firstly, work this. So Martin Carrera here with the next question. Since Tony Khan has made the impossible possible with Bryan Danielson and CM Punk signings, what one thing can WWE make impossible possible? See, I told you he's got these tough questions each and every time here, Martin, I tell you. But no, seriously, I've got some answers here for this one, I think, off the top of my head. Cody obviously feels like an impossible made possible. And I think that, with other contracts, does Kenny Omega want to be at a WrestleMania? Do the Bucks want to be in those positions? I don't think they will leave AEW, but never say never. And that's one thing I've learned definitely, especially with wrestling in recent times. In 2022, we're only in February and we're about to head into March in a few days' time. But the amount of crazy stuff that's happened already, right? And especially you mentioned these two things happened in the last few months of last year. Wrestling is thriving with things that we think are impossible, made possible. So anything can happen. And I'm going to go out there and say that I do think what was said in the stream, I do think MJF will be in WWE one day. Maybe it's the bidding war of 2024. And I'm going to stick my neck out and say maybe one day, even if it's for one match, I think that Chris Jericho will definitely come back. And I wonder if Kenny Omega would just test himself at one stage in his career, even if it's in the last year or two of his career. C Nation Doc here goes on to say that if Seth frickin' Rollins is added to Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar for the title, it would be like the women's winner take all match. Yeah, it would exactly be like that. It would be. I think this does continue on here, he's with Charlotte Flair and Brock Lesnar with the Ronda Rousey and Seth Rollins is the Becky Lynch. I love the comparisons with each person, and you actually can see where you've gone with that as well. I think that's really, really fun. Yeah, it would exactly be like that. So, I mean, there's definitely room for it. I don't think there's any problem with that. My only worry is that then I don't want WWE to spend another year booking Roman versus Brock. I actually think that if we get this singles match now, then it's done. I don't think we go anywhere else. But hey, I have been proven wrong wrong in the past many times before. Sometimes I've been proven right. I like those times more. But hey, let's see what happens. Zach, I personally want to see AEW versus WWE Survivor Series show. What do you think? I think it's amazing. Tony Khan would be open to the idea, I'm pretty sure, but he said the Forbidden Door is open to anybody. He would be happy to do business with WWE. It's whether WWE want to do business with them. But of course, if it's on a WWE show, I think that first would be a place where it could happen. And two, I think WWE needs to win at the end of it. Whose pride could buckle first? I'm not sure either of them would, but it'd be interesting. I personally would love to see. I think you could have some great dream matches if they did a Survivor Series card of AEW versus WWE. So yeah, I would love to see it. Kind of a basic question, but who cares? Who do you think will beat Roman Reigns for the title, or for which title? We'll have to wait and see. We'll have it could be a double champion coming some point soon. I don't think it's a simple question, really. I think it's quite a difficult question, but I have been asked it before. I still think Drew McIntyre is the right guy to do it if we're going off the SmackDown roster, just because he's been away from the championship picture now for quite a while, and I think it would solidify him as a top guy forever going forward. So, I don't want to see Drew stuck against the Happy Corbins forever. And even if people thought his last run got stale, he is a top guy, and we need to treat him like a top guy, because otherwise we're just going to see these people never made into stars. We have to get behind these superstars as much as WWE has to give the good stuff to us as well. So for me personally, I think Drew McIntyre would be the right one. Do I enjoy the two-night Mania? Yes, 100%, 100 million percent. The reason for it is because I find the 7-8 hour WrestleManias really long watches and difficult watches as well, personally. For me, I like the idea of we have 2 3 to 4 hour shows, and I can handle that. I think that's a lot easier. To be honest, and I said this actually on a couple of recent streams as well, I was very fortunate to go to Brooklyn. I was very fortunate to go to Survivor Series last year. Sorry for those that have heard this before. But to be in that show, and I went in the doors at 6:30, one of the first ones in the door, first ones in there to see an empty arena. It was really cool. And I was sat in that seat then for 5 hours. And I must admit, it flew by. I thought it was a really quick time, really quick show. I wasn't burnt out. But when I sit at home, and it can be the time difference because I had got into the American time zone, but being at home and starting a show at midnight and it finishing at 10 p.m. and it finishing like 6 in the morning, it's very difficult when it's one night for me. So for me personally, I like the idea of a 2-night Mania more. Finishes 3, 4 in the morning. Not that I necessarily always can still stay up to those times, but certainly they're quick and easier watches. For me, it's much better for me personally. KXI saying, do you think someone like Matt Riddle could work as a heel? Yes, I do. I do think I think it'd be really weird at first because of the fact that when you see Riddle as a heel, it'd be like, well, hang on, like, we've got all this bro stuff, we've got the references and that, but a more serious, legit, badass that Riddle we know is, he is someone that's been in MMA before. And if we could sort of get that twist and that turn of that character and someone that's just going to beat down and bully other people, not that we condone bullying in any way, but certainly on a WWE idea of what heels do in the wrestling ring, I think Riddle could take that role, could do it really well. But I still think he will be the one that is turned on when it comes to RK Bro. We've got something I still wonder where Asuka is. We haven't seen her in a while. She has been injured and she's been taking some time off, but hopefully she's due back any time now. And if she's cleared, probably will show up at the Raw after Mania or something. I think that is certainly a potential there. Raw or SmackDown after Mania, I think is definitely a possibility. We've got Nation Docky says AEW needs to stop adding members to factions. It's so annoying. I think it depends on the factions, really. I mean, for example, the House of Black, I'm kind of into it. I'm digging it. I like the idea of Buddy Murphy, just purely with the history of him, Malachi Black. In fact, you go on to talk about it actually in the next comment here. So let's bring it up and discuss it together. When Buddy Murphy's day was in AEW, I would have been excited, but too many ex-WWE guys have debuted in AEW. Well, I mean, they have had a lot of them. They have, and I can understand people's point of view with that. For me, as I say, if it adds something to the roster, then I'm for it. If you're going to bring in people that aren't just filler and there for no reason, which a few of them have come into AEW as well, those ones I don't really see the point of if you're just going to be on dark elevation. But if you're going to make a difference, fine, bring them in. I think Buddy Matthews has potential to do something. I still have a lot of high hopes from his time when he was Cruiserweight Champion on 205 Live. He carried that show, and it was a show that I was really looked forward to watching each and every week. We had a feud with Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander and people like that. So for me, I've got high hopes that he could do good things, and his matches with Malachi Black were awesome. So I have hopes that this stable will work really well. But hey, let's have to wait and see how it's going to play out. Do you think AEW is kind of a revamped version of WCW in places, but not entirely? I think they're creative of their own thing, and they've not made the same mistakes that WCW has made at this stage. Obviously, WCW made a lot of mistakes back in the day, and I think that a lot of that is what cost them from actually, winning the Monday Night War over WWE back in the 90s. But AEW, yeah, they probably have some concepts, some match types, maybe looking to try and get some of those sort of shows. We've now got the Back with the Belts, which is kind of like Clash of the Champions back in the day, but certainly, no, they do some very good, consistent storylines. They do a great television product. They're basically Ring of Honor New Japan style, but doing it under a sort of big TV format, but doing the Forbidden Door stuff, that's stuff that WCW did back in the day. So yeah, it depends on how you look at it. They've got sort of little tweaks of it if you want. And speaking of that as well, Jonesy had a question came in very much at the start of the stream. How similar is WCW's decline to WWE's decline today? And how similar is AEW's rise to WCW's rise back in 96, 97? So, right, the difference of declines, let's take that first. WWE's decline is creatively, and that is going to be down to opinion as well. Now, obviously, I know Jonesy feels that way. At times, I feel that way. Though there are some shows that I enjoyed Raw this past week, but I do feel like a lot of shows in 2021 I felt were I think WWE could do better. That's just a personal opinion. And when you've been in and around, you've seen lots of different storylines over the years. You think, well, hang on, I've seen what I feel were better times. And obviously, even when you look back to like the 2016s and 17s, how sport we were, and we didn't realize it. Do you know what I mean? But with the decline, it's nowhere like WCW's. WCW had like these big money contracts with all these people with creative control that were kind of calling the shots backstage. Everything was just a mess in WCW, and the ratings went completely down in a different time era as well, where ratings meant everything, where they probably don't mean as much in today's market. WWE is the most profitable they've ever been. Their worst day right now is better than their best day in the Attitude Era. That shows how much of a profitable company WWE is. So for me personally, even though it may be a creative decline, if you want, or maybe just the fact that they have too much, and maybe that could be an argument I think people would like to make as well. Having 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of NXT, 2 hours of SmackDown, and all your basic 1 hour shows that you've got, the Level Up now there as well. There's so much WWE TV to give a full, fresh, and creative thing every week. Where back then you had a 2 hour Raw, and in 1999 you got a 2 hour SmackDown, and that was it. So I think it can be, if you would condense the best bits into a show, maybe we wouldn't feel that way. I mean, of course, you look at AEW. I don't watch Dark. I don't watch Dark Elevation. I do watch Rampage, but of course it's so quick, that show, it flies by, and it's got pretty much your next level superstars, or it has your one big wrestler that has the match that they're going to win, and then you've got Dynamite. Everything feels condensed. It feels easy to consume and watch, and all the best storylines are thrown in on Dynamite. Few matches given on Rampage, and a couple of little recaps and things to do for the next Dynamite, and that's it. You move on. WWE, that's what it is. But for AEW's rise to WCW's rise, AEW are just getting better and better and better. And they've knocked it out with a few apart now with some of those pay-per-views. All Out for me is definitely up there. And I think it still stands at this moment. It's near 6 months later as arguably one of the best pay-per-views in the last 25 years. I would stand by that. And I think Revolution has got the potential, and I'm going to stick with potential at this point, to be on the same level, if not better. We'll have to wait and see. But WCW's meteoric rise happened in the mid-90s. They found a niche of what worked, which was the idea of bringing in, former WWE stars, weirdly enough. But it was also the big stars from the 80s and stuff like that. AEW is doing something different. They're bringing in the stars that they think were underutilized, with a couple of big names like Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. Obviously, Punk, though, having a big break from wrestling. But it's interesting to see, because the rises, in a way, they're similar. Declines, in a way, they're similar. But in another way, they are so very, very different. We'll take another Jonesy question while we're here, because these came in right at the start, and we can work our way back down. But everyone, if you haven't already as well, give this video a like if you can, possibly help the algorithms share it out so we get everyone tuning in here and obviously get themselves involved with this live stream if possible. But Jonesy said here, will WWE acknowledge AEW in some way when Cody Rhodes returns? I think they have to. I think that they will possibly. It'll be interesting the way that they do it. I'm not convinced that they're going to do it in an obvious way, but certainly at the same time, I do think that it's going to be very interesting how they're going to do it. I do think they will, and I think they'll be creative in it. But I don't think it's going to be outright AEW. I think it may be the case of he's come from somewhere else, or you think he walked back in here, or something like that. There'll be a little teaser somewhere. This is a question I don't like. Sorry, Zach. There are 5 questions. There are 5 series that I think they should release, and this has probably come from somewhere higher here. Yeah, there are 5. You can name them if you want, and we can call them on the screen. But obviously, I don't like the idea of anyone losing their jobs personally. If I'm going to be honest here, but hey, we'll have to wait and see as it's going to play out. But let's go back further down here. We've got some more ones coming in. Zach, you got another question for us there. Do you think Stokol will actually make an in-ring return at WrestleMania? I'm not 100% into it, but it seems that WWE really, really wants it. I think Stone Cold will only do it if he has the idea in his head that it's not going to be a botch, because Stone Cold is a very intelligent guy. He was a great technical wrestler in the early to mid 90s. He then got the bad neck injury, if you remember, with Owen Hart, and he changed his gimmick and style anyway for being Stone Cold, from being the ringmaster and of course stunning Steve Austin back in the earlier days. He changed to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. And when he got the injury, he was very limited, but he made what he had work, and I think that's what he would try to do here. He would make it work. We won't get a 20-minute match, that's something for sure, but what we probably would get would be something like 5, 6, 7 minutes, and I think that would be enough, because you could have Stone Cold come up with that big entrance, and then a couple of stunners, few beers flying around. Gonna be happy as Larry. Martin Career says, when AEW lets go of some of their talent in the near future, could their lower card or mid card talent that you have an eye on and would like to see join WWE? Excuse me. Yeah, I personally think that is a possibility. I think that when you look with, for example, the likes of NXT, I think definitely they would probably look at take a few of those guys in. I think for sure. I don't think they would throw people immediately onto Raw and SmackDown unless they were hire people that would make an instant difference. But WWE had gone through what I feel is a very different strategy recently. It seems to be giving big money contracts and keeping people that they think can make a difference, and getting rid of everybody they think cannot. So I think if you're talking like a lower to mid card kind, I think right now I think it's fair to call this superstar that. Brian Cage, for example, he is a lower or mid-card talent in AEW. If he was to leave tomorrow, I think WWE would look and say there's a great talent there, there's a great in-ring look. I think that this guy can make a difference. Perhaps they could have him against Bron Breakker, for example, in NXT 2.0. And I think then they would say, yeah, there's a good reason to bring that person in. But I think that would be what they would do. I wouldn't say they'd bring loads in, but I would say they may bring in a handful of people they think this could be a game changer. We've got Nation Dog. Cannot re-sign Impact contract right now because of his US contract, so he could still resign. So I'm not worried. Well, I did not know that information. C Nation has the info, everyone here. So if you haven't, subscribed to his channel as well. And thanks for giving us a bit of facts here as well. We know the situation now why Josh is currently not wrestling anywhere in the States, because certainly I would like to see that. But yeah, absolutely, it would be interesting. Let's go then to other questions we've got. Probably Brian Cage came here as well. I like that. He actually got thrown in there as well. We've got a question in from Sinister Dog as well. Hardy Boys versus Private Party will be a good match in AEW. It has storytelling because of Matt Hardy would betray Private Party and reunite the Hardy Boys, or the other way around. But certainly, like you say, the story is there. It definitely would be the first match I would have them to do that. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Silka says, would you like to see the return of the point system for Bound for Glory, or Feast or Fired match, or these two match stipulations that helped Impact stand out? Certainly, I would love to see the point system for Bound for Glory. I enjoyed that back in the day. I thought it was really good. Feast or Fired, I think is an idea they could do, certainly. Here's an idea I said about previously, and I think this is where you could try and do a lot of this stuff into a show, is to take all the old TNA gimmicks and throw them in one special show one night of the year. So I would do Genesis, and I would purposely have it as a 6-sided ring. One night a year, you bring the 6 sides. Whether superstars like it or not, irrelevant. Do it for one night. It stands out. It's different. And you can bring some of these sort of old gimmick matches in, whether it's King of the Mountain, whatever you want to do. Things that put TNA on the map, made them separate at the time, made them different. Bring it back for one night only. I love the idea of these sort of things as well. Maybe a point system, but maybe it's a Genesis system rather than Bound for Glory. You could do something like that. And Feast or Fired, it is an interesting way to do your ladder matches. And of course, if someone's contract is coming up, that's a great way to write them off TV. So yeah, it can work. So yeah, I would not be against this. I think this actually makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I'm down for it. Nation, Drew McIntyre has kind of went down the card since he moved to SmackDown. He has, but I think more of that is due to the fact that they want to keep him where fans don't turn on him, and they want to keep the match for him versus Roman to a certain point, potentially SummerSlam, perhaps the UK show that's rumored in September. I think these are the reasons why Drew has been kept away, but I do think they're going to start pushing back towards it. It's just a matter of when, not if. Also, we've got here another fact here. Roman Reigns and Charlotte Flair both have a SmackDown champions. Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey both had Raw champions for these winner-take-all matches. Interesting stuff indeed there as well. See a lot of continuity going in with that, which you suggested from the other comparisons we had earlier in the video. Also, could we be getting the Raw Tag Team Champions versus the SmackDown Tag Team Champions at WrestleMania? I wouldn't be against it. Alpha Academy, it's the Usos. I think that'd be a lot of fun to watch, but I don't think it will happen personally, if you can ask my opinion. But could we get it? I wouldn't be. I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but yeah, I'm not sure if it will happen. Martin says it's crazy to see that women like Dakota Kai and Io Shirai are still in NXT. They could honestly help Raw and SmackDown. I'd love to see them have a Bianca push. As would I think both are standouts. I am loving what they've done with Dakota Kai this week with Wendy Chu. Just the idea of for a second there, kind of like maybe third time's a charm, I can have a friend. I think that's really, really fun. I think that's cool. So yeah, I hope that goes to an interesting turn and dynamic with her character. Io Shirai, for me, I think once they've done this tournament, which I think, if I'm going to predict now, I think her and Kaylee Ray are going to win. Yeah, I think they'll beat Raquel and Cora Jade in the final. So I'm going to go for them to win it. I think they'll go for the women's tag team titles. I think that will cause a problem with Zoe Stark when she returns. And then I think Io Shirai is released up to the main roster if hopefully Vince sees something in them. But yeah, it's crazy things. They've been in NXT for the longest time, but I'm happy for them to be in NXT as long as they're pushed and used correctly on whatever show they're on. I worry that when they get to Raw and SmackDown, they are going to become just curtain filler, because you've seen the likes of Shotzi, you've seen it with Xia Li and people like that recently have gone up and they've not been used. I know you could argue around and say, especially with Io Shirai, a very long-term NXT Women's Champion, doesn't always make the difference. If Vince doesn't see it, they're not going to get pushed and then they'll be released very, very quickly. Oh, like this question. Okay, so if AEW gives Cesaro a manager, who do you think it would be? And I think this actually is a very genius idea, because Cesaro, we've already said, probably not the strongest mic game, but he's great in rings. So to give him a manager, I think would be really, really fun. Trying to think of the top head, but maybe like someone like, if it was coming as a heel, I would go Tully Blanchard all day long. But right now, maybe someone like Arn Anderson could be quite interesting to have there, because Cody's not there around anymore. So yeah, why not? Why not someone like Arn? Arn would be great for that. For me, that's instantly the first one that comes to my head, but I'd love to know people's thoughts in the comments. Do I miss the Thunderdome? Not really, if I'm honest. I like the idea that we have proper fan interaction, but I mean, if WWE wanted to do something as a one-off show, then they could always bring it back, because it was innovative at the time. I did think it was very creative, and I think it really made the best of a bad situation. So in that way, yeah, I would say I miss it. But I mean, I think nothing beats the idea of having a live crowd there. It's such a special feeling, and you know, to watch people react to things on shows each and every week, I think is really, really special. And once we got the fans back, you know, we just thought, oh God, how do we do all these shows without them? So for me personally, I say I don't miss the Thunderdome, but if they want to do something like that creatively, I mentioned like Genesis for Impact, if you want to do this and it's just I don't know how they would do it, but just a Thunderdome style show, yeah, why not? Why not? But then I suppose people would have to pay to be on the screens. Maybe that would be the difference of where they can actually make some money out of it. We've got CNation Dog saying that WrestleMania should be a one-night event because WrestleMania isn't the same without one night. That's a fair argument. I mean, the thing is as well, if I'm not mistaken, CNation, you're on the time zone where it probably wouldn't affect as much. So I can see your argument. For me personally, I like an easy watching show. I've always said that I think, you know, go back, and if I want to watch a show on the network, for example, I'm much more inclined to watch something that's a 3-hour show or less rather than something that's like a 6-hour show. That's just a personal preference from me, though. Martin Guerrero says, who is your favorite category wrestlers in submission specialist, brawler, high flyer, powerhouse in WWE and AEW? I mean, I think this, if this is all time or current, I'll go with current, I guess. Submission specialist with AEW, I'm going to go with Bryan Danielson. With brawler, I would go with, I think I'm going to go with Eddie Kingston at this moment. I just think, you know, his sort of style in the ring, I think works pretty well. High flyer, I'm going to go for Ray Phoenix, because I just think he's just incredible with the stuff that he does. And for powerhouse, Keith Lee, now he's a part of that roster, would be my personal one. I think Keith Lee eventually will become the face of AEW, just a matter of when, not if. For powerhouse at the moment, looking then actually for WWE, I'm actually going to go right outside the box and say Bron Breakker at this moment, because I just really think that they're just booking him so darn well. I really enjoy what they're doing with him. So yeah, I'm going to go for Bron Breakker. For High Flyer, I would go with Ricochet. Or I mean, AJ Styles is not as much of a high flyer as he used to be, but he can go with the high flying, and AJ is my current favorite. So it feels a bit wrong to not go with that. But maybe he could come under submission specialist, maybe, because he does use the calf crusher. So AJ on the calf crusher will go with Ricochet on the high flyer. As for the brawler, interesting one, this one. Let's have a little think there just for a couple of seconds. Let's go with Sheamus. I know Sheamus can mix it with many different styles, but when Sheamus gets into his brawler phase, yeah, I do enjoy what the Celtic Warrior does have to give. NXT 2.0 is good, but the black and gold is better. I would still agree with that at this stage, but I do think that 2.0 is making strides in the right direction. More shows than not, I think, recently are getting over more, and I am liking the. I do like the characters of what they're using in NXT, or certainly a number of them, maybe not all of them, but I do think we're still probably in very early stages. Give it another 2 years or so, then we can really see. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. For me, at the moment, I think, yes, black and gold, of course, it's better. It was a great generation of when we had it, but NXT, it's going more in the right direction with 2.0 than what it was when it started. Silk, lol, the fact that WWE wanted us to believe that Buddy Murphy was under 205. The guy's a tank. He is a tank. You are so right with that. Yeah. I didn't believe that either. But and I remember as well when he had to do like the weight each time to sort of make sure he could get into the matches. I thought it was a fun touch as well. Yeah, we weren't believing it for a second, but certainly he was awesome. And it was a great way to utilize him at that time because that show needed him. And I mean, even when he left it, that show still needed him. He was that good there. KXI, the only thing I don't like about 2.0 is some of the cringy backstage segments. I get why they do it, but sometimes they're actually funny. But the only downside I have about the show, yeah, I mean, the things for me is a bit like when it's high school. I think it's the stuff that makes me cringe. Why has everyone got to be in a horny love angle where they kind of want to get with each other? Although saying that though, I did like what's his name? I'm gonna have to say BJ for now. Jensen. Anyway, it's Jensen who were doing his sort of dating app thing where he's talking with chat lines in the phone. I thought that was actually quite entertaining this week. But yeah, I mean, a lot of them with these angles, the sort of, yeah, like I say, it's like high school watching it in places. So that's a bit cringy for me. It's one of the down segments, and some of the gimmicks aren't 100% working for me. Andre Chase being one of them, and a couple of others as well. I think that basically that can also come down to wins and losses, not just the characters themselves. But yeah, they are doing a lot of good things as well. CNation Donkey says Cody Rhodes could be the one to end Roman Reigns' Universal title reign. He certainly could be. We wouldn't rule it out at this stage if he can get over it in the right way. I certainly don't think it would be out of this world for that to happen. I certainly wouldn't be out of possibility to see this match in 2022 either. What is your unpopular worst gimmick wrestler today? Great question. And I mentioned Andre Chase a minute ago. I don't know if I'm quite going to go with that. I think I'm going to go with Tiffany. I forget her surname at this point, but Daddy's girl with the credit card. I just think that is a bit too cringy for me. It's just not a gimmick that I'm into at this point. I know it's still early days for it, but yeah, I'm not buying into it. Silk here saying that should wrestling companies do more flight in the wall backstage segments like TNA used to do? Always felt like these added a bit more legitimacy to their stories. Now, I'm going to be honest with you here, Silk. I was not a follower of Impact Wrestling until realistically around 2010. So I couldn't really go with the really early days, but they definitely did a lot of these sort of, like you said, backstage segments, which added a bit of legitimacy to the storylines. I feel that WWE and tries to do those, and I think AEW in a way successfully does a lot of their backstage stuff. But yeah, TNA did a good job back in the day, and I would like to see more of it if companies were to bring it in. Certainly. We've got C Nation Dog here saying Moose's reign as Impact Champion has been good. If Josh beats Moose to win the title at Slammiversary, Moose would be the longest reigning Impact World Champion. Well, if he holds it to that long, if it was my personal choice, it would be Rebellion. But judging all the facts you give me earlier, maybe Moose will be keeping it till that stage. We'll have to wait and see. Cody Rhodes' return to WWE will be awesome. I personally agree. However, they bring him in, I think could be interesting. I gave a number of different ideas on my recent Ask SCW video. Highly recommend checking it out after this stream if you've got the opportunity, because I've got about 3 or 4 fantasy booking ideas of how Cody could be brought back into WWE. Also saying that the contract is a storyline to keep him away until Moose is right for him to win. Okay, so it's storyline. It's not a legitimate thing. Okay, that's fair. Well, let's see what happens then. Let's see if he does resign and when he does come back, and if it happens. And if he turns up somewhere else, c'est la vie. But hey, if it's storyline, I'm happy to buy into it. I'm happy to be patient. I know that he's actually been suspended at this point on TV storyline. So yeah, I'm patient. I can wait for it. Martin says, since we're talking about factions, what 2010 faction from WWE would you like to see feud with the current AEW faction? It's got to be the Nexus, right? Got to be the Nexus. They were cool and they were over at the start before they did all the different changes. So yeah, Nexus would be that, and yeah, let's get them going against the Elite in some format. As it's going against an AEW faction. So yeah, Barrett and Co against Kenny Omega and Co. That would be what I would do. We have got quite a few in from C Nation Dog here. Steve Austin should not return to WWE. His last match was The Rock, a perfect setup. And I agree with that, by the way. WrestleMania 19, one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time. 19 years is a long, long time. But the only thing I would turn around and say, and I said this on a previous stream as well, if Austin wants to, why should we say no to it? It would be epic to see him return, come through the curtain one more time. As long as he's good to go and doesn't have a crown jewel like HBK did in 2018, then I wouldn't be against it. But yeah, it was the perfect send-off at the time. I see MJF winning the world title at Double or Nothing. So do I. I agree with that as well. And also, as I say, Hangman Adam Page has been underrated so far. I think it's been good. And you know what? I don't think it's been horrible. I just think that he's actually suffered a little bit with placements in the show and perhaps opponents. I think that not enough was made when he drew with Bryan Danielson. The fact that he's had this self-sabotage character, I don't think they played enough into the rematch. That's just personal opinion from me. Lance Archer, great match, but was nothing feud. Now he's in with Adam Cole. I really can start to see things going. And every time he gets on the mic, he does fantastic stuff. So it's not as if, like, even when I say it's not been as strong as it could be, I'm not saying at the same time it's bad. And like you say, underrated probably is a fair comment because a lot of people are saying negative things about his title reign so far. And I do think that is quite unfair. Would like to see NXT UK talent be included at WrestleMania. Thoughts? If they could be used in a really, really good spot in a really good way that would add something more to the show, yes. If they're there just to fill numbers up in a battle royal, fair enough. If they're there to make the show then 6 hours each night, then no, because I think that WrestleMania is long enough as it is. And like I say, I like the fact, and it's a struggle for every talent to get on the show as it is. So for me, this would be a reason why I wouldn't. But if you wanted to do where worlds collide for Stand and Deliver, NXT versus NXT UK, that's certainly an avenue you could go down as well. Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens should win the Raw Tag Team titles. Sorry, Alpha Academy, but they won the belts at the wrong time. I still believe they're going to lose that triple threat match, but also I think Alpha Academy will be retaining if I had to predict now, and I think that will be the placement which starts the breakup of RK Bro. Then we have a drink pause. Cesaro would be amazing for Impact Wrestling personally. Match against Josh Alexander, Moose, Ace Austin would be better than heading to AEW. And they are some incredible matches that you mentioned. And Jonathan Gresham is currently defending the Ring of Honor World title in Impact, or has been as well recently. And we've seen the likes of Jay White in there as well. So there's lots of matches you could do with Cesaro in Impact Wrestling. I personally would not be against that idea at all. C Nation says, would like to see them again. Ooh, that would be good, yeah. That would be good. So you have Rollins and Owens actually win against the Usos at WrestleMania and hold all the tag team gold. If they're going to merge the brands, I think it's a great idea. That's the only way I would do it. Otherwise, I couldn't see it happening personally. If Regal ever joins AEW, I could see him managing Cesaro. Yeah, that would be great. I believe he was offered a role in Impact Wrestling. I don't know if he accepted that role or not, but I think it was like if he ever wanted to, then he could. I'm sure if AEW was to offer it and he was to come in, I think Regal would be a great manager for Cesaro, be a great manager for a number of talents. Maybe he could be a part of this mentor Bryan Danielson group as well. That would be quite an interesting philosophy to have a manager in and amongst that group as well. Malachi Black as AEW TNT champion, as well with Buddy Matthews and Brody King as the champions, would be sick for the tag titles. Certainly would be. I'd be down for that at some point if they were to go for that. Even the trios titles, as we speculated earlier in the video, could be a possibility. Surprise World Breaker hasn't got on the 2015 Roman Reigns hate yet because he's a babyface and being pushed very hard. They are pushing him very, very well, in my opinion. I said about grit earlier on this video that we're not seeing enough in WWE. With Bron Breakker, we are getting that grit. Like he said, he's not there to be dressed well. He's there to kick some ass, and that's what he's doing. He's doing a very good job with the way he's being presented in NXT, and he feels legit. He's been booked strong like a Goldberg kind of character, but also has got a perfect blend of the Steiner brothers as well. So that was why I don't think he's got the hate yet. And I think if NXT as well, I think that takes a lot of the shade off. I think a lot of the hate comes when you start getting to Raw and SmackDown with the same philosophy. But in my personal opinion, I think fans should get behind this Bron Breakker character because, yeah, it may not be the strongest name ever made for a wrestler in the history of the world, but the guy is legit and he's only going to get better. So for me personally, I would turn around and say that, get behind Bron Breakker. I think there's definitely a very, very, very bright future there. Seth Freakin' Williams is a tag team specialist. He could win the Raw tag team titles a 7th time with a 6th tag team partner. That would be incredible to see. Speaking of one that's done it with multiple partners, don't know how many was Cesaro. It's a shame he's left WWE. As well here, we've got Tiffany's cringe and NXT feels like high school with all these love stories, and I would certainly agree with that at this point. But Martin says, don't take anything away from Tiffany Stratton in the ring, but Danny's girl thing is two divas like for it in this era of women's wrestling. And I think that's one of the main issues I got with it's too diva-like. I would agree. It's a bit cringy. It's too diva-y. But in the ring, yeah, I'm sure she's fine. The problem is, though, she won the first match, then she lost very quickly in the second. And that's what made me think, why should I buy into it? So this, for me, is probably why I'm not so into the character. Not just the character. It's also the fact they're not being booked very, very strong either. Eddie Edwards turning heel and joining Honor No More was shocking. Thought it would be Steve Macklin. They teased it well with Macklin, didn't they? They teased it very, very well. Must I say that it wasn't the predictions that I thought Eddie would do it, but I must admit that I can't take full credit for that prediction. Jamie Holmes, a very regular on this channel that comes and checks in on these live streams, does on the Q&As on the weekend, suggested it a number of weeks. It was like 1 week after this storyline started, said, I can see Eddie Edwards turning. Do you reckon it will happen? And following it ever since, and it just played out. He was not involved. The things he saw was legitimate. So I must admit, it wasn't as much of a shock for me. But the thing is, though, I thought that Impact did a great job with this story. And there was always a chance that Eddie wouldn't turn heel, you know, just because of the fact that it looked like it was good in the story. But the fact that it did, as everything had fallen into place together. And if you go back and rewatch every step of the way, it's actually genius the way Impact Wrestling have booked that together. We've got Martin saying, who can be a great TNT and IC title holders right now if the talent from the opposite company? Interesting. So we're taking a WWE guy to hold the TNT title and a AEW guy to hold the IC title. Interesting stuff indeed. I mean, we've got plenty at the moment going for the TNT title. So let's take someone from the face of the Revolution ladder match, shall we? And let's take Wardlow. Wardlow goes out there, kicks ass, take names. It's like the Bron Breakker style. We just... talked about a minute ago, have him come into WWE and just powerbomb dudes like 4 or 5 times and squash matches. That would be pretty cool. And it would give very quick legitimacy to the IC title once again, although I think Sammy will do a great job with it. As for a WWE guy to come in and win the TNT title, I tell you what, I mean, the thing is, I think Sami Zayn's a great IC title holder in general for his previous reigns. So I will go for him to go in and actually do the TNT title, because I think then as well, to have so much competition going from him, Sami would be that kind of guy who would look to try and escape matches. So I think that could be quite fun storyline to watch play out. We've got, we could get Bron Breakker versus Dolph Ziggler for the NXT Championship at WrestleMania. I believe it'll be at Stand and Deliver, which I believe is actually given on the same day as night 1 of WrestleMania. So that's what I predict will happen. But hey, who knows? Maybe WrestleMania would be a good placement for it. It'd be great to actually showcase a Bron Breakker. So I wouldn't be against the idea. What did I think of Nikita Lyons? Here we go. Debut on NXT this week. Thought some of the offense was really unique, and always love seeing wrestlers do something new. Absolutely. Mentioned Dolph Ziggler on the last one. You know where people were going with that all over Twitter. But with Nikita Lyons, yeah, she had an impressive debut, I would say. Yeah, like you say, the offense was unique. She was something different, something fresh. Let's give her a chance. Let's see where it can go. I know people, you know, it's all about the gifts on Twitter with that finish of the match, but no, I actually thought she had quite an impressive performance. So let's see where it goes. I think that she certainly, I can't see it being anywhere near the top of NXT 2.0 with the Women's Championship in any time in the near future, but maybe slowly build up, maybe 3, 6 months, 12 months down the line. Certainly she could be a big name in NXT. Let's see where it could go. Nation Dog, I think WWE is ending the brand split. We'll see if it happens. I don't think it will happen just yet, but I do think that there is a possibility it could happen in 2022. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a draft in October this year. And we've also got should be Braun Steiner. Apparently, I think it's something to do with the rights of the Steiner name, but I could be wrong with that. He wanted the name Braun Breaker. So, I mean, if that's what he wanted and he liked it, because I think it was like to do with being Breaker with doing his football career. So I think that's what it comes down to. But yeah, I mean, I would have been fine with that as well. But we've got KXO has left us on the stream now. Thank you very much, KXO. I hope you've had a good one. Thank you for checking us out as well. Ricky Starks screams future IC champ for me. Would love to see it. I think that's a great answer, by the way. Really, really love that as well. I think it's really, really cool. We'll go, I think, for about another 10 minutes or so. So if you want questions, probably get them in now. Your last set of questions in, and then we can make sure we can get every question answered before we head off the stream. But we'll go back to now talking about our top topic here. Cesaro left WWE, but he was doing nothing and was in a random tag team with Mansoor. He was doing nothing, and that was the really sad part of it. I think he had so much potential to do so much more in WWE, a top star, a top talent, and unfortunately, it just didn't quite go to fruition. But fingers crossed, whatever his step is next, he will get to be doing something meaningful in a good program, good wrestlers, good dream matches in another company. Like we said, I think the world is his oyster, whether it's Impact, New Japan, AEW, wherever he wants to go, I think he can make a big difference. C Nation also goes on to say that some of the NXT 2.0 characters make no sense, like Andre Chase's character has nothing to do with wrestling. No, it has nothing to do with wrestling, but I will say I'll give them a bit of credit for trying to be creative with it, with the sort of high school kind of or the university lecturer. I think it's fun. It reminds me of the movie Road Trip, so I kind of get a kick out of it. But I think the problem with Andre Chase is the fact that he just never wins. I suppose it's maybe the point of his character, because he gives all this, teachable moments, and really it's just all, he's not giving anything really, is he? But at the same time, it's nothing to do with wrestling. It is questionable in its way, but I still enjoy it in a little bit of a way. So the Usos could win the Raw Tag Team titles and become the Blood. Yeah, I mean, if Bloodline were to win all the gold, both sets of tag titles and both world titles, that would be quite interesting. But personally, I can't see it myself. But would be fun to see. Martin's going to check out the stream here. Thank you very much, Martin. Hope you've enjoyed yourself. Hope you've enjoyed everything. And as well, AEW will bury big stars like Cuthbert Cage and Powerhouse Hobbs. I believe the idea for Powerhouse Hobbs is that he will get a big push eventually. He's now in this ladder match, so he's obviously getting somewhere there. But I do believe that they see him as a future star. It could be a good couple of years till we get him, see him towards the top end of the card. Brian Cage is someone that could and should have been really around there now, in my personal opinion. Silk is saying, have you ever had a chance to watch Triple A's Triple Mania pay-per-view? It's one of the best wrestling shows of the year. I have watched a few of them. I would say I watched most of them between the years of probably 2017 to just around the pandemic time. So yeah, I would say those years I watched it, and I would say that it's freaking mental a lot of the time, but it's good fun. I would say that. I think the last Triple Mania that I watched, I think was had a lot of fun, interesting twist storylines, and there's always usually a lot of superstars that you're familiar with from the USA markets as well. I mean, obviously you can see the likes of the Lucha Bros and people like that on the show, Andrade El Idolo. So I mean, there is the possibility of having those sort of stars there. So it is interesting, but at the same time, I don't always follow everything because that's the one show I watch. It's kind of like New Japan for me. I'm a very casual person that will say, Wrestle Kingdom comes around, so I'm going to watch that because it's Wrestle Kingdom season. Same with Triple Mania, but it's fun. But I must admit that I'm not the biggest AAA watcher. We've also got here, is Andre Chase a babyface or heel? Because wrestling, he acts like a babyface, but his college acts like a heel. He's definitely a heel for me personally. I would say he's a heel all day long. Sometimes he's thrown in against heels, but he is a heel jobber. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Let's go to the top of the stream because I have not answered all of Jonesy's questions, I don't believe. So let's check here and answer the last couple he's given his for us here. Should WWE have revealed Bobby Lashley would miss the match before the Elimination Chamber? Yes, 100%, because I don't like the idea of false advertising. I think it would have made a lot more sense to do so. Although I do think, even though people maybe had a problem with the way he was written off TV, I do think it was slightly creative as well because of the fact that, concussion protocols and stuff like that. Something WWE, I believe, has avoided for many, many years. But of course, if it's for other sports and stuff like that, it would make a lot of sense because, for example, like soccer for the American people watching, football for me, if someone takes a bang to the head or if it's in a NBA game, American football, whatever, you've got to go through these protocols. You're not allowed back on the field until you've passed that. So for that, it kind of makes sense. But obviously, Bobby Lashley's injured his shoulder. So why didn't just do something to write him up with a shoulder injury? One thing I would say, though, he's probably coming back for Seth Rollins when he does return. Jonesy here says also as well, what has WWE learned from failed angles like Retribution and the SmackDown Hacker and how they can improve these sort of storylines in 2023 or hopefully 2022, Jonesy? Let's not write them off just yet for this year. For me personally, I would say that I don't think they have learned. This is the problem. I will say about some of these storylines in particular. They had so much potential, but they just didn't go along with it. And I think that is the real problem. They didn't follow it through to the finish. I think with these angles, you need an end goal. I think that's where it comes down to. If you've got an end goal, then you can build things from the start and work your way to where that end goal is. Retribution, for me, it felt like it didn't have an end goal. They didn't know where they were going to go with it, or they felt like they were going to a direction to an end goal and then gave up halfway through because they didn't think this was getting over the way they wanted it to. So perhaps maybe need to be more patient with storylines, let them play out, because I think it's more frustrating when we see these as failed angles that don't have a conclusive ending, especially the SmackDown Hangover, because I thought that was a good storyline. I enjoyed that one. Retribution started off well, had a lot of potential, but then fell flat very, very quickly. But I hope WWE would learn to improve. But unfortunately, they change plans all the time. And I think that doesn't help either. If you're booking shows on the fly and changing things week to week, I think it doesn't really help. If you know a storyline you want to do long term with these groups and with these angles, you need to keep them going long term. So I think that's kind of where we're going wrong. A great show, fella. Keep up. Thank you very much. If there is any further questions now is your last opportunity for the last few minutes. And as I say as well, if you can like the video as well, really, really do appreciate it. Andre Chase is feuding with Edge and Great Khali's Baby von Wagner. And he's also here, so it's very confusing. I would agree. Basically, Andre Chase in this role then is a jobber. He is still a heel, but he is going to lose the match. This is why I can't get so much invested in Andre Chase, because even though I think the gimmick can be fun, and I don't like all the students in the crowd either, that's one of my little nitpicks with it, but it can be fun, it disconnects because he loses almost every single match and he's a jobber. He's not going to be someone that you're going to find going for the North American Championship. And if it is in the next 3 or 4 weeks, thank goodness they've changed it around quickly, but it'd be an absolute fluke at this point. Andre Chase is like bottom level of the ladder, whoever he is going to face. So that's all the questions that's been done there. So I think we're pretty much going to wrap the stream up there. So thank you for everyone that's been watching. If you can like the video, really, really do appreciate it. If you're first time watching, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit the bell for notifications. And just to let people know as well that this is a plan all the way through WrestleMania season. If I can do it, I'm going to do these live streams twice a week. So looking to do Tuesdays and Thursdays, looking around 11 p.m. Already got the next one set as well for Tuesday. We'll be joined by Discus Lariat Collective. Warren is going to be the special guest on that show. So I'm going to look to try and have guests throughout the time as well, perhaps at least one show a week as well. Next week as well, there'll be a live stream also of AEW Revolution. So that will be as well the predictions for that show. I think the match card is looking awesome, by the way. Loving the idea of all those matches that have been added this week as well. Really excited to see. But so we're going to leave that till next Thursday to do that, because then we'll have the complete match card to give you those predictions. So there'll be 2 live streams going next Thursday as well. But other things to look out for on the channel, I will try and keep those fantasy booking videos coming. As mentioned, Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch is one that I've strongly got in mind that hopefully will be dropping this week. I will try in the next couple of weeks to do the New Day one, which I did promise, and I have not forgotten. I promise it will be on the way. SCW Rewind as well is there for you to vote for as well. So go into the community tab of there. You can vote for which WrestleMania should be the retro review of the month of March. Currently, WrestleMania 21 is the one in the lead. If you want to change that, make sure to go there and vote now while you still can. Keep that poll going to the beginning of March. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you everyone for your questions. Thanks for everyone that's been hanging around in this chat. It's been amazing to have everyone here. Thank you for supporting SCW as always. Really, really do appreciate it. Have yourselves an awesome day. Continue doing the great things that you do in your lives, and have a good one. We'll see you very, very soon. You've been watching SCW on YouTube. Take care, and if you have an opportunity, help me get some monetization. Watch another video if you've got the opportunity to before you finish the rest of your day. Take care. All the best.